Hello and welcome to Different Perspectives. I'm Paul Ndiho in Washington. Today we turn our attention to Sudan, where a deadly power struggle between two rival generals has pushed the country to the brink of collapse. The current conflict pits General Abdel Fattah al-Burhani, commander of the Sudanese armed forces, against his former deputy, General Mohammed Hamadan Dagalo, better known as Hamiti, who leads the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF), an offshoot of the notorious Janjaweed militia. The US government recently determined that the genocide has been committed by RSF and allied militias, raising urgent questions about the accountability, external support, and the future of Sudan. To shed light on this escalating humanitarian disaster, we are joined by Ibrahim Alduma, a Sudanese analyst based in the United States, who has first-hand information and deep connections on the ground. Hello, Ibrahim. Welcome to Different Perspectives.
Hello, Paul. Thank you so much for having me here. And thank you so much for the solidarity and thinking about Sudanese people.
Very nice. It's There's a lot happening in your country. Maybe let's start by you setting the stage for us. What do you hear on the ground, or what news is coming out of your region, especially Al Fasher?
Yeah, thank you so much. The crisis in Al Fasher is not started only 1 week ago. It started 500 days before when the RSF decided to put an absolute siege on Al Fasher, which is hosting over 1.3 million people who escaped and fled out of the war after the RSF took over all the other sides of Darfur, North Darfur, South Darfur, Central Darfur, and East Darfur. After that, most of the people escaped out and came to Al Fashir as a safe haven for the region and stayed there for like they had access to anything that we want. The markets were open. The life is just nearly better than the other states, which he took over by RSF. After that, RSF tried to take Al Fashir, and we know that Al Fashir is a historic Syrian historic region of brutal wars, maybe since the early decades of Sudan. But when they started to take over Al Fasher and they failed maybe 4 or 5 times, they decided a different way of taking over by putting an absolute siege on Al Fasher. They banned any access to humanitarian aid, while the UN humanitarian and the WHO humanitarian aid was only 1.5 kilometers from civilians in Al Fasher. Unfortunately, people started eating the animals' food for the starvation. The severe starvation made them eat animals' food and eat maybe dead skin, animals' dead skin, just to stay alive. They lost hope and they hold hope, but RSF built a barricades around 31 kilometers around all over Fashir and just put very few and certain check-ins so anybody could pass through them before getting out of Al Fashir. Men and youth especially were highly targeted. Most of them were killed like during passing out Al Fashir. Some of people risked their lives and sacrificed their life to get out, to smuggle some like minor amounts of food, like just some of flour, sorghum, and spaghetti for their family who are starving there. And all of these who like got caught by RSF were killed before RSF taking Al Fashir. After 500 days of absolute siege and absolute isolation from anybody of the in the world, RSF took over Al Fashir the last week, and everybody in the world saw what happened there. They just repeated the genocides they did in Al Jinena and in Sinnar and in Sinjar and the other areas where they took over. They killed. They said that they killed over 2,000 people, but I think the numbers is way higher than this because nobody know what's going on in Al Fashir. No internet connection. Only few people who managed to escape out of Al Fashir after what they seen, they just told people what's going on there. And Yale University labs saw through satellites rivers of blood in Al Fashir. So nobody knows how many people got killed. And as I said, before they take Al Fashir, maybe more than 700,000 people were inside there. About 50 people escaped out to Tawila, which is 68 kilometers out of Al Fasher, on feet after they took over Al Fasher. Most of the people were killed. The only one hospital, which is Saudi hospital, all wounded and people and co-patients and medical staff were executed. Most of the people were executed randomly without even any like kind of questioning they're joining to the warring parties or no. They're just killing civilians. They are doing massacres. And if you like with showed what happened, they got their commands from their second leader Abdul Rahim Dagalo 72 hours before taking over Fasher. He said that we don't want any hostage. Clearly, don't bring me any hostage. Just kill everybody. That was clear. Some of them trying just to put the crimes on, well, like some of the field leaders of RSF who killed people brutally, and they filmed their own crimes and they filmed their own genocides, and they just trying now to put the crimes and to put the blame on these field leaders, but their second leader and their second commander told them clearly that we don't want any hostages. That's what.
Ibrahim, let me come in. I hear your point. Is this information that you're telling me based on what civilians are telling you about RSF's tactics and the nature of violence that they're experiencing, or it's something that you've picked up from the news and other sources?
No. I've been working on documenting the human rights violations. I'm experienced in validating videos that coming out of the place and verification of these videos. Unfortunately, as I said, that it's not an opinion, and there's no other side to give us a picture about what's going on at Al Fashir except the RSF themselves. Now, most of these videos are filmed by themselves, and they said that clearly that there is no international criminal code. Do whatever you want, and if anybody wants to put us in jail or charge us for these crimes, just come to us in Al Fashir. We are there. So this is their leaders, what they say, their leaders, what they film and what they clearly state and what they like prove it on the ground by killing these people and filming them and publishing that through their own accounts.
So, Ibrahim, there are a lot of people who have criticized both the current Sudanese government and, of course, RSF. From where you stand, who do you think has committed more crimes? Is it RSF or the Sudanese government? Because obviously there are two parties here that are clashing in those areas.
Yeah, it's so clear. You know, RSF was created by the Islamic regimes, especially by al-Bashir. And al-Bashir created RSF to protect them from just stepping down of the chair of the power. RSF was being growing until al-Bashir and Hemeti himself contributed in stepping and removing al-Bashir at that time. So this is one of the main things he did. And then he did the coup together with Abdul Fattah al-Burhan. They did the first coup on the transitional government in October 25th, 2021. Just they said that we did this coup to prevent Sudan from civil war. And them to themselves, they started the war after they disagreed on merging RSF in the armed forces in April 2023. But after that, all Sudanese people from the first day, they said that no war. And we know that you are doing this work just to not let the civic and democratic transition going on. Even me, my position at the first month, before anything got changed, was just to stop the war and get back to the transitional path. After that, RSF started their own way and their culture of the wars since al-Bashir created them. Al-Bashir mainly created them just to fight the armed movements, but they burned the villages of civilians of Sudanese since 2023. They haven't stopped doing this. Either with the government or against the government for the first time now in October 2023. After that, they started looting, raping. They started from Khartoum, from itself, looting, raping, killing, doing all the brutal things that they have been doing during their work with al-Bashir. And they continued that, expanded to Sinnar, and they do 3 massacres before they go back to Darfur. And they started with the massacre in El Jinena. They burned people alive, the Masalit. Most of them, they killed 10,000 people in 3 months. This is in June 2023. So RSF are not targeting the government. RSF is not targeting Sudanese armed forces. They are targeting people. They are targeting civilian directly. They are having a genocidal and ethnic cleansing, and especially in Darfur, because there is rooted problems between the Arab tribes and non-Arab tribes in Darfur, and they are using RSF now to do these ethnic cleansings in Darfur. So this is my position and my stand of most of the Sudanese people that against the ethnic cleansing that RSF are doing now.
Okay, to your point, I've read some reports that suggest that there are some summary executions, sexual violence, are very widespread. How credible are these reports that we keep reading about? I've talked to a few people who have sort of like told me about these crimes. How credible are these crimes?
You mean how
The summary executions that have taken place, like for example, when they captured Al Fasher, I've seen some clips of people being shot point blank.
Yeah. So most of the reports are published by maybe most of the human rights organizations are still publishing reports, starting from UN and the fact-finding mission of UN, and we have Amnesty International published, the Human Rights Watch published different reports, and they verified these reports. Most of the organizations in the United States also published some reports, and even the United States government have some reports that proving that RSF are committing genocide and massacres against civilians in different areas in Sudan, especially for that happened to Masalit in Al-Jinena, and now in Al-Fashir. Now we have maybe a couple of reports, but coming months on the forthcoming will be a lot of reports, because this is a huge material of reports for the human rights organizations and for the human rights advocates to publish new reports about what's going on in Al-Fashir. But we all seen that before even publishing formal reports.
What does RSF control of Al Fasher and its move towards other areas mean for the balance of power between the RSF and the Sudanese military?
Unfortunately, now people are going through dividing Sudan into two. I think Hemeti was thinking if he failed to take over or to swallow all Sudan, he just get back to Darfur and separate Sudan, the Darfur from other Sudan. And I think that wouldn't resolve any kind of problems, because now Al-Fashir was very strategic point for RSF, because this is the fifth and last Darfurian state under control of SAF before they taking it over. Now, after taking it over, RSF saying that they want the unity and they want the peace, but they are expediting their crimes to Kordofan. Kordofan now under risk. Now we have Baba Nusa in the West. Kordofan is, they put the same siege and the same strategy of Al-Fashir on Baba Nusa, and they took over Bara. So people expect that Al Ubaid, one of the biggest states, which is North Kordofan, will be under the risk of siege and under the risk of heavy bombarding against civilian there, and they may expand to the northern state. Who knows? They say that, and they say that they want peace. Now, but now what I'm seeing, what happening in the United States here and in Washington D.C. Under the sponsorship of the United States government, that they want to make any sort of peace agreement between them. But I hope that peace agreement doesn't end to divide Sudan between the two parties, because Darfur will be under the hell of the RSF if they just took over the control of it.
Speaking about the United States, it has officially labeled or designated actions done by RSF as a genocide. Do you think that will make a difference on the ground or international at least?
We all hope that. We all hope that. And, the main point of this is the role and involvement of the UAE in funding and supplying RSF. Since the war started in Sudan, UAE took the full responsibility of unlimited funding with arms.
United Arab Emirates?
Yes, United Arab Emirates. They are involved in different countries in Africa. We all know that, but their involvement in Darfur was tremendous. They just giving a tremendous amount of. They have an air bridge between the UAE and the Niala in South Darfur. Maybe reports prove that over 78 flights came down in Niala. They supplied RSF with weapons. They supplied them with everything they need. just to continue committing these genocides and criminals against civilians in Sudan, because they want power, they want gold. They have some agreements between the UAE and Hemeti, and Hemeti also sent proxy to Yemen during the Yemen and Saudi and UAE war at that time. So that when they started. Now, maybe identifying RSF as a terror group will prevent, or some, there's a bill in the Congress, in the American Congress, the bill 1939 is aiming to, if they approve it, they just stop arms sales to the United Arab Emirates until they stop their funding to the UAE and stop contributing in killing Sudanese people. So that would be very helpful if we cut out this severe intervention of the UAE in Sudan. That would give us maybe the opportunity to stop this war and to make RSF do any kind of compromising of stop killing people and get it back to the peace table.
Yeah, Ibrahim, I've been observing and following the latest developments in Sudan. I know for a fact that United Arab Emirates has categorically denied some of those allegations that you just alluded to. Is there any evidence on the ground to suggest that they are doing what you're saying they are doing?
A lot of proofs. The Human Rights Watch also proved that, and with the satellite and with the flight tracking to the UAE and with all the equipment that they are doing, and RSF themselves are publishing this and filming this and publishing the UAE armed coming from different countries, China, Britain, and even some of the United States weapons were used in Darfur to killing people, and those only come to the UAE. And we know that the agreements of weapons sales between different countries and different entities, that the end position and the utilizing of these weapons, UAE violated all the weapons agreements between them and the other countries, and that was proved. I have a lot of links. I will share with you some proved reports from the UN and from the Human Rights Watch that proved that UAE was highly involved in these crimes in Sudan.
In case you are just joining us, we are live on all social media platforms, and we are discussing the escalating humanitarian disaster in Sudan. We are joined by Ibrahim Alduma, a Sudanese analyst based in the United States who has first-hand information and deep connections to the ground. Of course, back to you, Ibrahim. From talking to the people, you said you have your family in Fasher. What are they telling you?
Alhamdulillah, just thanks God, my family went out Fasher before the siege, but my sister is a journalist and working directly with the ground, with the people in Fasher, and I was following up with what's going on in Fasher, and maybe on daily or weekly basis at least, that before the RSF taking over Fasher. But now, since last Sunday, there is no internet connection in Fasher, as I said. And most of the people, either they are just lost their connection or they are hostages with RSF. And after this mass killing, they started asking for ransoms for people that they abducted them. They just give them very short time, maybe from 10 minutes to 24 hours, to call only one person to send the ransom so they can release him. And they put prices on people according to their appearance, and they put and publishing some videos that people just like direct you call to anybody to send you the ransom, or we will kill you. And they managed. Some people sent ransoms and they took them to Tawila, which is the neutral area. So it's very organized kind of trading with people now, and I consider that human trafficking for what's going on now. But you can't hear anything from Al-Fasher now, at least from RSF themselves. But as I said, that Tawila now is the last safe haven. Most of my brother yesterday told me that he's a humanitarian volunteer as well. He told me that over 90% reach out to Tawila, which is 68 kilometers from Al-Fasher. Now they are in their need to food, they need to meet medical supplies and sanitation programs and those things. So most of the people, I just take this chance. If you found any link, and there's a lot of links for international organizations and local organizations raising funds for those people. And we know that in these circumstances, the cholera volume will be the highest places. Most of the people now, over 90,000 people, are in this place without any kind of basic needs in that area. So we can hear from Tawila, we can hear from some surrounding areas, but from Al-Fashir, nobody can hear anything.
Maybe bring us up to speed for at least for people who are joining us. I see we have some people watching live. Maybe help explain where this conflict is. Maybe give us a little bit of background between Hamiti and Al Burhani.
Okay, this is great. As I said, Hemeti was created by al-Bashir themselves, because we know in any military institution, they have their procedures. They can just remove al-Bashir if they felt that he's not doing good. And these coups happening, and this even it's not only coup, it's just maybe security procedures that doing after the revolutions, because it's easy for the military institution to join the voice of the people on the ground and just remove their head and bring someone else. Al-Bashir was like having a great fears of distress. So the military institution can just sacrifice him if anything happened. After that, after very sad and very difficult economically and politically, difficult maybe between 2015 to 2019. That time al-Bashir himself like felt the failure of the Islamic regime after 30 years of achieving anything for Sudanese people. The economic and the inflation was in the highest volumes. Then he created Hemeti, and he was only fighting armed movements in Darfur. After 2016, al-Bashir invited Hemeti to come in the capital of Sudan. And we know that those troops and those militias were not well trained, were not professional. So they came to al-Bashir. They surrounded him in the presidential palace in Al-Khartoum, and it was like very condemned between different parties, even the military institution themselves. After that, when Hemeti joined the military and removed al-Bashir, and he came as the deputy of the Sovereignty Council of Sudan with Abdul Fattah al-Burhan at that time, he tried to say that they are like aiming for peace and aiming for just having a short transitional government, and then give the power to the transitional to an elected civilian power, so they can lead Sudan maybe to private transitional development. After that, they made the coup with al-Burhan themselves, so they just can stay in the power. When they made the coup, now you know that no boat could be led by two people. Hemeti have his ambitious and his leadership ambitious, and he kept saying during his existing in the government that nobody from Darfur came at the first place. So they just trying to use Darfur as to give him the right to lead Sudan for the first time, that we need a president from Darfur. He was saying that while he was in the government, he said that the best thing we can do is getting the second chair. So after that, people saw the fractions between the RSF and the military. And there's a coup attempt in 2020 from the military institution, but Hemeti is the one who took over the investigation on this coup, and he's the one who took over the military leaders and put them in jail, and continued with Abdul Fattah al-Burhan until 2023 when the war broke out between them. And even after that, Abdul Fattah al-Burhan was holding hope that Hemeti could get back. And Abdul Fattah al-Burhan himself is a criminal. He worked together with Hemeti in Darfur. They killed Sudanese people in Darfur, in West Darfur especially, during the war with the armed movements. So they both are like similar together. But after that, the military institution were the institutions of protecting Sudanese people from RSF. This is not deniable. Just for the evidence that most of the people, when RSF take over any place, they escape out from RSF territories to the SAF territories. So nobody wants Abdul Fattah al-Burhan. We all know that all the Sovereignty Council of Abdul Fattah al-Burhan and the other military leaders are committed crimes together with RSF, ending with the military headquarters setting suppression that happened in 2019, and they killed over 200 of civilians youth of the revolution. So we all know that this is the top leaders of this military institution, and Hemeti are all criminals. But now the military institutions are the only institution who are protecting Sudanese people.
let me do a quicker follow-up. Earlier, you talked about how, for example, the external players in this conflict. Besides that, where does Hamiti get the resources to support RSF?
Hemeti, when he formed by al-Bashir, it was only 10,000 people of his troop. But after maybe in 2019, he increased maybe to 35,000 people when he get in the capital of Sudan to protect al-Bashir. And during that time, he started their agreements between him and Russia, which is Wagner, to give his troop trainings, and with UAE, Mohammed bin Zayed, to send proxy to war in Yemen. At that time, he started expanding his external relations with different areas. But this is one of the most strategic mistakes of the government in Sudan, that they gave him an opportunity just to have an independent international relations, an independent source of funding of his troops. And then he took over Jabal Amir, which is the richest place of gold, and he started mining. Maybe he brings over 8 tons month, 80 tons of gold, and this is independent resources for him. Nobody asked him, where do you take this gold? Then he started these relations with the UAE. He smuggles gold without any procedures from the mining area directly to the UAE and to the Russia at that time. So he expanded hugely. In 2022, his maybe his forces reached out to over 120,000 people. That was like most likely nearly equivalent to the number of Sudanese armed forces. And then he decided to swallow the country itself, because he felt that he have the enough economic resources and political resources and external and international relations that give him the opportunity to take over all Sudan.
Uh, let's go back to the humanitarian crisis that we talked about earlier. How uh, speak speak to that? How are the humanitarian groups on the ground, the medical workers being uh, uh, targeted, and how are they able even to reach those people who still can't afford to escape?
Mhm. Sudanese human rights and Sudanese humanitarian workers give us maybe the ransom of solidarity between them and between the local areas. Since the war broke out, from the first day, the same resistance committees and revolution youth, they formed something called the emergency rooms, and we have something called community kitchens. So all of these things started as community based for those who are already existing in the ground, and most of the organizations from outside just gave them the fund or fundraising, maybe making fundraising campaigns for those people who are working on the ground. So they started from the ground. They didn't come out from outside. They didn't bring new projects. They didn't do anything. They just started from their own pockets and their own limited resources, and then expanded to the other organizations and the other resources to work with them. So they face the same risk from the first day, but they just split between the humanitarian and the other political opinions. They don't say anything about RSF. They don't say anything about SAF. They just keep directing and keep focusing on their humanitarian action work and receiving some money through their local accounts, and just spend that money on serving the people that on the ground and on the battlefields.
How about generally speaking, nearly 25 million people are facing hunger. What are some of the most urgent humanitarian needs? If since you have access to people on the ground, what do they tell you they need, or they want support from the international community to
Yeah,
do?
as I said, now in Tawila, we have until now 90,000 people, and people kept coming from different areas, because now Darfur is all under RSF. So this area in Tawila, they are in their need to sanitation facilities. There are no sanitation facilities at all. We have a lot of spreading of different favors, and we know that in these circumstances, starting from cholera, from dunk fever, from other favors, malaria, all of these things are spreading between those people, which is like they are facing very minimal immunity, because they faced over 500 days of hunger. We have this is also the malnutrition as also one of the main crises. So anybody could fund or providing support to people in Darfur. They're in their need today before tomorrow. They don't have even, maybe people are working on meal based. I have an organization. I'm in contact with them. They said that just we raised a budget for one meal per day. After it covered, we raised the budget for the second meal of the day until 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks. So anybody could maybe raise fund for Sudanese people. Now they are in their need for that, especially in Tawila and the other surrounding camps who are escaped out of Al-Fashir. But this is not only the crisis. We have also crisis in West Kordofan. And those people under RSF. Maybe in the other parts of Sudan under SAF, it's little bit better, but also in Omdurman, which is under control of SAF. But now Omdurman is maybe hosting people from different areas in Sudan. Over 15 million people are in there with no access to food, with no access to any kind of work that they can get money to food. So it's poverty that makes people get hunger. That's why anybody and any organization want to contribute. Start from Tawila in Al-Fashir, go through West Kordofan and come to Omdurman itself. People are there in need to food and to the other basic needs supplies.
Uh, let's stick to that. How about people here in a diaspora, especially in the United States, in Europe, and other places in the region? How are they responding to this crisis? And are they coordinated? Are there groups, like, for example, in the diaspora, that are coordinating relief efforts to help your countrymen and women?
Yeah, I will talk with the most gratitude to Sudanese diaspora in different areas. They prove their ability to collaboration. They led the fundraising processes for different areas. They're starting from themselves. For the first day after people get out of Tawila, over $40,000 was sent immediately after those people went out to the Tawila to the first organizations. This is just first installment, and then they continued contributing in fundraising for Sudanese people from there, and even including other organizations. They created some ad hocs, ad hoc for fundraising from and collaborative of different organizations, international organizations, Sudanese organizations, and the other diaspora, just to fundraising for these things. So I think Sudanese people did their best on these things, and they covered the first need, and they prevented people from death from the first days. But now, as we know, that those people are paying from their own pockets and trying to raise fund through the traditional and just the normal ways of traditional, but the need there is a way higher than what they can cover. So I think all the people and the people from all the world have a role to contribute for preventing Sudanese people there. The need is a way higher than what Sudanese diaspora could do.
Is there an end in sight? Do we see a possibility of this war coming to an end very soon, or we're just going to see more violence and more people being killed because these groups have refused to come to the table and have a discussion?
We hope we hope from the first day. We hope that the war ends today before tomorrow. That all people are like now when Ms. Atpolis, the advisor of President Trump, said that we are discussing a ceasefire, all Sudanese people celebrate with hope that we need this ceasefire today before tomorrow. But as you see and as you know, there's no ceasefire without stopping RSF and stopping UAE from funding RSF, because now even Hemeti have no decision of ceasefire unless Mohammed bin Zayed agree on that. So now Mohammed bin Zayed himself is people here and the Sudanese and the other organization ad hoc are putting pressure on the United States government to put pressure on the UAE just to stop arms sales. This is the first step. If we could stop and cut this funding from RSF, that would be like a tremendous step to stop this war in Sudan and to have this ceasefire. Nobody wants the war to continue anymore. Nobody wants more suffering. Nobody wants more people to get killed for this war. We just need to stop this war and to stop the international intervention in our country.
Speaking about international intervention, do you think the international community has done a lot to help Sudan, or they're just standing by on
No,
the sidelines?
they are just exploring what's going on. They're just standing by. They're just ignoring what's going on in Sudan. Since April 2025, Sudanese diaspora and Sudanese advocacy groups in the United States were pushing the Congress just to approve these bills of Sudanese American involvement in Sudan Peace Act and stop arms sales to the United States. But as we know that the United States and the UAE have a tremendous investment and business between them. As President Trump last time, he said that they have $8 billion agreements between them and the UAE, which he struggles the endeavors to stop arms sales to the United Arab Emirates. We know that Sudan is not that high priority to the United States for now. It's not only it's not tactical or strategical priority. But if we are talking about the crimes and the international stability, and even the stability of the Red Sea in that area, and the stability of the Sahel, which is just surrounding Sudan, all of these mess and crimes were made by RSF. Now they are trafficking gold and trafficking humans through these areas. So I think the war in Sudan not only affects Sudan itself, but also affect the all international community and affect the East and Horn Africa region, which make it very difficult for people to live there, and that is most likely to expand to the other countries in different areas. Maybe reach out to all the neighboring countries, and they will be involved either negatively or positively with Sudan, but without the pressure of the United States now to the to both the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces to stop these genocides, and to the UAE to cut this funding. We are not expecting to have any kind of ceasefire.
We are almost out of time, but any final thoughts?
Everybody's seeing what's going on in Sudan now. Everybody in any place, especially in the United States, have a role to contribute or to play. It's not that huge role. You can just send a message to your representative in the Congress to support these bills to stop killing people, innocent Sudanese civilians in Sudan. Or you can just maybe donate with $1. That will save $1 is enough to save one soul in an area you never heard of it in Sudan. So if we could contribute on those two things, just put pressure to stop this war and donate for the humanitarian aid for those Sudanese people, that will be very great for anybody in any kind of the war. Thank you so much.
Ibrahim, thank you so much for your insights.
Yeah, thank you so much.
This is a different perspectives. We want to know what you think about the RSF's recent capture of El Fasher and the push into North Kordofan that triggered mass civilian displacement and harrowing reports of war crimes, summary executions, sexual violence, and the targeting of aid workers. Share your thoughts in the comments section below. And of course, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to Paul Ndiho on Substack, X, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Spotify. Stay tuned for our continuing coverage on this platform across all social media platforms. Good night for now from Washington. Thank you so much.